Greetings and salutations, everybody out there in YouTube land. It is I, El Jefe of Insurance, David Duford at davidduford.com. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday at September 16th, 2019, and you're joining me on another live stream training session. Today, I have the privilege of bringing along my annuity specialist, Mr. Stephen Burgess. Can you say hello today, Stephen?
Hi, everybody. Nice to be with you today.
Thank you, Stephen, for joining me. The topic of today's presentation really is giving you guys an overview on how and selling annuities works, at least how we do it, and if one is interested in doing, what the steps are to take to start leveraging your existing clientele, your leads that you're working, in order to find and uncover very big commission opportunity annuity sales. So what we're going to start today is, again, this is kind of a 30,000 foot overview of just the basics. You're welcome to ask any questions. This is live in two spaces. You can ask your questions on the chat if you happen to join us on the audio only sales call. All you have to do is press 5-star. That raises your hand. You're welcome to ask a question. But let's start off with Stephen. If you can jump in, Stephen, and kind of tell us about yourself, how you got into insurance, and specifically how you got into the annuity business, and we'll go from there.
Fantastic. Well, I always introduce myself to the clients that I see as I'm a teacher by profession. My education is a master's in elementary education, which is schools very well for working with the senior population, because I take complicated subjects and I try to put it down to about a 7th or 8th grade level so that everybody can understand it. How long have I been doing it? I'm in my 8th year. I have a lot of I've gone through a lot of common ground with a lot of agents that I speak with, where they go through, you start off with final expense and you cut your teeth there, and a few things go right, a lot of things go wrong, and you try to figure that industry out. And then maybe you go to an IMO, and I did that, and watched a bunch of vultures trying to figure out how to pick apart the carcasses that I found. And I said, well, this is a good idea, but, if you get these guys out of your pocket, you might have a chance to make a living at this. So I walked away from that, and I started going independent. I wrote Annuity. It was kind of an even balance when I first went solo on my own, where I was writing final expense and Medicare supplements and annuity, kind of even Steven all the way around. And then I realized that my calling, if you would, well, what calls me is the least amount of work for the most amount of money. So what I was called to was annuity, and I focused my attention on that, and went at it as an educational project. How do you educate seniors on the reasons why they need to look at these topics? And David and I got together about a year and a half ago, I think it was. He had an agent that had a large amount of money in annuity. He had no clue what he was doing. I worked with Jeremy on that. He was agent one, or ground zero, of this project, and since then we've gotten a lot of agents up and running. And I will say this: the folks that work similar to what I do pretty well, and that's how we arrive at this call today, is to have people take a look at what we offer and what we do, and to see if it would be a fit for your portfolio.
Yeah, it's funny. I've always been a straight final expense guy. No other product sales, straight down the line final expense. But the one thing I've discovered, especially like you said with ground zero with Jeremy, is just how much annuity business is out there. And it's not obvious. It doesn't matter if you're selling final expense or Medicare supplements or anything really in the senior market. There's tons of opportunity to uncover annuity sales opportunities. And Stephen, can you kind of speak on kind of like what a typical annuity prospect is like for the markets that we're in? Like, what's their background? Where are they now in their retirement? and what appeals to them about the particular product that we sell?
Well, I focus my attention on folks over the age of 65. I target market to a very specific group. I'm looking for 65 to 83-year-olds. And if you wonder why I stop at 83, it's because you can't write annuity on an 84-year-old. And I look for homeowners. The fact that they own a house kind of skews to financial stability. And I go in there to educate them on the state, federal, and private programs that are not income-based. I stay completely away from any conversation having to do with low income. I'm not a social worker. I offer information that if they have that problem, I can steer them in that direction. But my primary purpose there is to tell people that, what's your situation, and if you've got retirement, how to make it last, and what are the dangers in that. And there are two primary dangers to the long-term health of somebody's retirement plan, and one is downside market loss, and the other one is in the event of poor health. And we put retirement money in positions where they're protected from those.
So when you go talk to these
now,
clients,
you asked them. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Go keep explaining that. I think the other part of the question, Stephen, was who are these people? We know they're retired, but are we talking to people who are former business owners? Are we talking to blue collar background? How much money are we talking about? Kind of paint the picture of a typical prospect.
Typical, boy, I hate to say that it's really, okay, I'll give you the typical person here in Florida. It's a little bit different. So the typical person in Florida retires someplace else and moves here. And they did it probably 10, 15 years ago. So we're talking about they're talking a lot of New England, a lot of the Midwest. They work for companies. They have Yankees. They have 401ks. They, generally speaking, with money at that age bracket, is once they move it, they forget it. So the conversation, it's amazing that people will work for 20, 25, 30 years for a company. And the amount of conversation they have with the legacy of their 401k and their retirement plan lasts maybe a half an hour to an hour. It's kicked over to normally a financial guy who gets a hold of that business because it was referred to them because they were retiring. And so somebody said, well, send that over to a name brand financial group. And
Stephen, we lost you there.
And the money moves and it stays there. And there's surprisingly little growth on it. I think people are entitled to the type of growth that an educated investor should have. Your money should double every 7 to 10 years, and I rarely find that. And what I do is really to go out and find these opportunities, explain to them where they are today, give them the bad news, explain to them what would have happened had they made a better decision 8, 10, 12 years ago, realizing that you can't go back. There's no way back machine. I can't fix what they did, but I can help them from this point forward. If that makes sense to you, does that make sense to you? Well, do you mind if I put a few proposals together? Normally on a visit, I am in and out. I'm not there to close. Closing is the second visit for me. And I just want the opportunity to have the discussion. Can anybody do that? Yes, you can go in on a final expense situation where you haven't closed that, and you could just ask the question. I also, because I'm licensed in the state of Florida through the Department of Financial Services, can offer some suggestions on what to do with retirement money. Would that be a subject that would be applicable to you? Do you have a retirement fund or a 401k, 403b, any money that's been set aside to last you till death do you part? And if so, do I have the opportunity to discuss that with you? And a lot of agents will just ask that question, and the next thing you know, they're in over their head hell, I don't know anything about this, but you don't have to say that. You just have to find it. If you find it and you give me a call, I always tell people, call me when you find business. And once you find business, then here's what I generally end up doing. It's frustrating for me because of I'd like them to watch the videos and to understand the questions and how to work a fact finder and do all that, but they generally don't when on the first one. Usually with an agent, you got to put a carrot out there to get their attention. And so the first thing I do is I point out, you've got a carrot and this is the money that you could earn on this, so pay attention. And they finally pay good attention. And then I kind of walk them through the process and I give them I show them how to do a prospectus. I show them how to, step by step by step. But generally when I deal with a new agent, I'm looking at what is the client's situation. I go specifically to that need. I have them present one product, one index, one company. This is why we present this product, this index, and this company for this client's needs. And when they go in there, they're well prepared to do that. And the closing opportunities are generally pretty good. I can't remember too many folks that I've sent in with a prospectus that didn't get anywhere. They generally go to the next step where they write.
Right. Why don't you expand on that, Stephen? I think that brings up a good subject point. So we have a unique way that we teach agents how to sell annuities, and it does not begin with the so-called technical aspect of understanding the actual way an annuity works. Can you kind of basically explain our process to take someone who, many people listening to this are neophytes. They know there's opportunity in annuities, but they're afraid. Where do you even start? And how do you explain this to a client? How do you teach agents that are completely brand new to being competent in order to sell annuities consistently and independently?
Well, the first thing I point out to them is that the fact that they really don't have a lot of information is good news to me, because a lot of agents will attempt to overeducate themselves. I call it the enthusiasm of the misinformed. Well, they'll go in and they'll sit down and they'll start talking about subjects that they have no business talking about. I don't talk about them. I mean, these are things that I don't get into the complicated topic of what to do with an annuity on the first visit. It's just a basic overview. This is what this offers. I can place your money in a safe position where you have no risk of market loss and the opportunity for substantial growth competitive to managed money without any, and protected. In the state of Florida, the products that I offer are protected by law. You can't garnish, levy, or attach. You could have Morgan and Morgan rear end your car and they both get out holding their necks. They're not going to get your retirement funds in the state of Florida. And I emphasize that. But so if an agent goes in and tries to sell, the problem is they try to talk about subjects that they're not well versed on, and they get into too many topics. What you want to do is to take care of the client. You're the expert. And if you're not the expert, don't worry about it. You've got an expert in your corner. What I need is information. What's the story? And I always tell new agents, think of money just like a lost child at the mall. Little kid comes up to you at the mall and says, I need a place to go. I don't know how I got here, and I need a place to go. That's a lost child. Well, how did you get here? What was the vehicle that got you here? Well, the guy worked for a company for 20 years, and I started off as a 401k. Oh, okay, you were 401k. Well, when you graduated high school, what happened to you? Well, what happened to me was I ended up in managed money, and I'm now over here. I said, okay, now that you're there, have you grown? Did you develop in that place? And they go, well, no, I haven't really developed at all. But this guy's really nice, and he's been nice to me. He's been talking to me. He sees me every day. Well, that's great that you have but if he's driving a BMW, somebody's paying for it. What's been the growth on your account? And I have little methods to take a new agent that finds a client that has potential, get them down to one topic, and go in and present that topic. If you can walk into a person's house, sit down at a table, do a well-educated presentation on one subject, This is what the insurance industry offers. This is the carrier that we use, and this is why we use them. I always emphasize that the carrier that we primarily use was voted by brokers like myself in 2017 and 2018 as the number one indexed annuity in the country. And hopefully they'll get it this year as well. I don't know. But if I sell the person on me, if I sell them on the company, I sell them on the indexes that they have and the opportunity to grow, and sell them on the protection that's not available to them where they are. If that makes sense to you, can I move forward? Well, here's how it works. And then you explain to them that the first step in this is to make sure that it's an appropriate product for you. I'm handcuffed by law to make sure that this is a good product for you. Therefore, we're going to, if it's okay with you, I want to fill out a suitability application. And in order to do that, I need to see your driver's license. If the driver's license comes out, I move forward and we write it.
So I think the main thing that Stephen's describing here, and I think where we stand as being an interesting and useful way for neophyte agents to start in the annuity sector is that, or the annuity business, is that you don't have to know all the extraneous details with an annuity and everything that comes along it that makes it perceptively, from your position as a new person, difficult. What we help you do is learn how to find it. In our minds, to get started, that's way more important to learn what questions to ask, to learn what to uncover, and how to get that information to Stephen in the beginning. Because then from there, what we teach you is once you've found a deal, then you take it to Stephen, and then Stephen goes over it with you with a fine-tooth comb, and he helps you understand what's going on in the annuity, or what's going on, whatever financial product the client has, IRA, 401k, other stuff as well. But so you can understand what's going on, but also how the annuity benefits that client in ways that is not being realized with their specific product. Essentially what we do is on-the-job training, okay? We're actively showing you, when you find a prospect, what to do with it, and keeping the training on the technical side laser focused on what matters the most. And I think Stephen, and I'm sure you can jump in here and Stephen explain the thing, it's all about taking the complex and making it simple, right? It's about making this a simple presentation, even though it's a potentially complex subject and product, but driving it home to making it simple to sell, but also simple for the client. Wouldn't you agree?
On the idea of simple, here's what I found, and it's really best to talk about my experience with agents that I've worked with up to this point.
Sure.
If they get the first one under their belt, they got it. The second one is just going through the procedure. It's the first one under your belt. Once you've written an application, once you've explained a prospectus, once you've explained to a person why this particular, most of the products that I do recommend what's called a 2-year point-to-point. The reason is that's where the deal is. If you really look at the growth on the product on this particular carrier that we use, that 2-year point-to-point gives them the maximum amount of opportunity to get whatever growth there is in the market without any risk of market loss, without management fees, transactional fees. The annuity products that are out there today very, very competitively outdo managed money consistently. I rarely find the people that I have a hard time with are doing their own management. But anyway, to get back to the agent, once they've written one, once they've gone through the process and sat down, I even tell people, hey, I don't think this is going to fly, but go with it. I'll give you an example today. We were talking about a fella, and the problem that he gave me 2 weeks ago was, hey, I got this small amount of money. It's only $25,000. It's all the guy's got. How do I write this? And I said, well, you're going to have problems with suitability. You got to make sure he's got an emergency fund. So I'm sitting here talking to a fella originally about an emergency fund that really didn't didn't fact find and didn't understand some of the fact finding questions that we have on some of the fact finding videos that we have on YouTube. So he didn't get the information. So he went in to write the small one. The guy's got $500,000 in a 401k. He's 61 years old. This guy doesn't have a suitability issue. This is the walk-in to the next one. So by the fact that he kind of just walked his way through the process, went back to me, talked to me briefly, then we went back to talk about this. Now I'm telling him, my hunch is that he's going to move probably about 100,000. Is the way I look at it. So I said, okay, but we're not doing that now. What we're going to do is we're going to learn this. We're going to get credibility here. We're going to write this because it's an easy thing to do. It's not complicated. Everything about this aspect of it was a small annuity that was set aside for legacy for his kids to bury him. It's very specific. He doesn't want anything to happen to that. So we're going to fix that first. So you fix the thing first. But I know because of experience that little fix will open the door to the bigger fix, which will give him that amount of money. And then when he turns 65, he's got another opportunity to move the entire 401k when it moves away from the company's restrictions on the money when he retires to an opportunity for substantial commission. It's the long game. I've always been in the long game. So annuity is a little different from final expense. It's a one and done, get in there, get the hit. You're not going to hit home runs with final expense like you will with annuity, but the annuity, it's practice at the plate. And what I want guys to do is to practice swinging at the plate. A couple of good swings, you get that under your belt. You're going to be far more capable and knowledgeable because experience is the teacher here. It's not a head game. And if I had the other thing I wanted to share with you, and we were talking about it briefly, if I had to put my finger on the number one ability that I have to close business, is that fundamentally I'm just a nice guy trying to be helpful. And fundamentally, that's exactly what I am. I'm just a nice guy trying to help people. And Leona Helmsley once said about how does she hire people for her hotels? It says she doesn't hire people and tell them to be nice. She hires nice people. If you're fundamentally a nice person and that you honestly go out into the field to do the best service that you can for your clients, I mean, it sounds a little hokey, but that comes through in a presentation. And so if this fellow that's doing this little bit of work, if he can go out the attitude that this is in your best interest. Now, the product that I have him presenting to his client isn't the highest commission product that he could offer. But I wanted him to explain the fact that the reason that he's offering this particular product is for this particular need. This is the right product for that client. And if I can get that energy out through the agent to the client on this small one, then I know I've laid the groundwork to move the rest of the money, which is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it's a game of singles and doubles, and like you said, you play your cards right, it'll set you up for the big hits, and that's sometimes, and that's a great way to look at it. I think you're right on the money here, no pun intended. But if you can gain a client and gain their trust, even with a small deal, it puts you in a position to get the big ones, like the $500,000. And that reminds me, too, I think this is how, if any of you guys watch The Boiler Room, old Ben Affleck movie, phone sales, selling penny stocks, their close, if you guys remember, was, look, all I wanted after they pitched the product and made it hot, all they would say is, look, all I want you to do is buy the bare minimum of shares, just so you can get a taste for what's to come. They wouldn't go after the big hit up front. They were only allowed to take a small share order just to gain the client's trust, because they knew, and again, it's boiler room, what was explained there is a con, but it doesn't change the fundamentals of sales. They knew if you can just make the person a client, then the real money comes. Because then when they trust you and they like what they see, they're going to be way more open-minded to taking bigger risks or buying bigger product sizes. Stephen DeVito, your comment, email me your comment. That'd probably be more suitable. We've got some content I could send you, and then if you take a look at that, I can reply back with more specificity. So expand on this for me, and you kind of hit on this a little bit, Stephen. When it comes to the new agent, somebody who's interested in doing this but afraid of what if they screw up or what happens, how long does it take? How many sales would you say it takes to get competent enough to feel like you could do this on your own? Like, is this something that they've got to sell for a full year? Do they just have to do a handful of sales? What can you tell a new agent as far as what point were they going to feel independently confident that they can do all this and understand how it all works?
Two deals. I mean, it sounds flippant to do that, but that's been my experience. If you talk to Jeremy, he had it after two. Bonnie, large producer, she's into multi-millions at this point. Well over $1 million in a short period of time since January. Had a couple under her belt, and she's got it. Everything now is just how to increase her ability to go out there and see more faces. But we rarely talk product. As far as filling out paperwork and indexes, she knows what she's looking for. One of the advantages that we have with dealing with the top carriers and with the top indexes is that doggy doo-doo when you see it. A good annuity contract, you're going to see it out there because we're going to move annuity to annuity. And rarely will you find a good annuity contract that's better than the products that we're offering. It's just a matter of, two, and we're on different topics. We're no longer talking about how to fill out an application, how to do a presentation. After that, we're talking about how do I get in front of more people? How do I improve my catalog? It's similar to final expense. Once you get going, you kind of get the hang of it. I would have to say the main intimidation for my product is pages. A standard application is about 15 pages, but it's about 3 times a Transamerica app is what it is. And once you learn, where to fill them out.
Word on my channel, Stephen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
my viewership just dropped in half when you said that. But anyways, proceed.
Okay, I apologize for that. It's just what my point there is. There are certain carriers. Let's go to certain carriers. I'm sorry for name dropping. I've been trying not to do that. But there are certain carriers that have more pages than others, and the average annuity contracts are about, if it's not a product comparison, which is a little bit more complicated, it's pretty much application, suitability, the proper paperwork, and the transfer forms. That's what it is. And do I need to go over it with you? Well, I found a real good teaching tool, and I'll share it with everybody that's on the line. If you want to learn how to fill out an application, go on the website and go into their e-application. And what that'll teach you is all the boxes that you need to fill out, because if you don't fill out the right box, it'll say you didn't fill out this box correctly. And if you do the math incorrectly, let's say, because you gotta have their total net worth and their liquid net worth, the difference between the two needs to be the amount of money that you're moving. And the easiest way to figure that out is if you put $100,000 in total and $50,000 in liquid, that means you're moving $50,000. That's the correct way to fill it out. If you get those numbers backwards, it'll flash up red and it won't let you continue. And so you can kind of teach yourself the correct way to go through an application to make sure you get the numbers correctly. And the main key with dealing with an experienced agent on the first application is there's certain things that you need to do to just make sure that everybody's comfortable. So one of the questions, as an example, on a suitability application is, do you anticipate any raises in medical bills? The inexperienced agent will say no. Well, I explain, do they know they have full coverage Medicare Advantage plan and they don't anticipate any, health is good? full coverage, handle all their expenses. So I answer the question a little bit further, and my applications go through, So that's the experienced agent, but I teach all of that on the first application. If I got to do it twice, you're not paying attention the first time.
So, Stephen, switching gears here, you mentioned something earlier I think is so critical, and I'm going to jump in after you speak here and talk. But I think one of the biggest challenges of the annuity businesses, and perhaps this is what steers a lot of agents away from it, is not just the technical understanding of how it works, but also having a marketing system to get you in front of interested prospects. Can you describe the multiple ways that we prescribe for agents to stay busy and ask to prospect for this? We've got a particular lead program. You can talk about that, and we also teach agents to use their own leads. Feel free to kind of explain kind of what we do and how it works.
Well, to stay specific, I'll go with what I do, and it's very effective. So I do an educational presentation. The appointment is set up as a delivering and an explanation of a catalog of senior services and contact information for whatever county I'm in. That's the purpose of the visit. On my business card, it states whatever the county is. It doesn't say county, it just says I'm with this particular area. And there's my phone number there, there's my email address, there's my business office address. So bing, bang, bong, and here's my card, and I'm here to present this catalog. I'm very specific. Now, how do I get to that person? I have a telemarketer that dials through exactly the type of person I want to see between the ages of 65 and 83 years old that happens to own property in a particular area. How many people do I see? The better I get, the less I see. I hate to say this, but I'm doing maybe 3 or 4 appointments a day, and I'm only working Wednesday, Thursday, Friday now. I used to work 5 days a week. I don't have to anymore. I want to be available for you guys, so I'm now having office hours on Monday and Tuesday, so I'll have good access to anybody that has any issues or has problems. So I'm devoting more time to this project than I have, but I'm a little tentative to do that because I made a boatload of money doing it myself. So, am I happy to help you guys out and kind of show you the way? Yeah. If you're a hardworking guy, is it easier? I'm not a hardworking guy. So if you are, it's a lot easier to work harder than me. I don't work very hard. I'm kind of fussy. I like a 9:15, a 10:15, 11:15, 12:15. I like to have me and the dog at the beach by 2:30, maybe 3 o'clock. And I come home and I put my papers in early in the morning. I get up early, and that's my day. I don't work very hard. I work smart. I'm well schooled at what I do. I do a fabulous presentation when I'm in the house. I have no interest in talking about insurance. If they ask me up front if I'm there to sell them anything, no, I'm not. I'm not here to do anything. I'm here to present this catalog. And I do exactly what I tell them I'm going to do. And then after I do a great job, they realize, wow, there's a tremendous amount of good information that he just gave me. And I've also, in the presentation, opened up several topics that might be of value to them. Spousal impoverishment. It's the elder law practitioner legal term for the poor health of one spouse wiping out the health of the other. I've introduced that in my catalog. The idea of bunkering and protecting, the purpose in a lot of people moving to the state of Florida. That's in my catalog. But when I'm finished, I put the thing down and I slide it over to them and I say, do you have any questions? And I'm ready to go. And I give the attitude that I'm done. That's the purpose of the visit. And then if I happen to spark up the conversation to go further, that's my technique. So as far as the way I do it, that's pretty easy. Now, the other thing that we've been working on, and Dave and I have been talking about it recently, is most of the clients that I see are Medicare supplement people. And I'd say about 60% of them have a Medicare supplement. So if you can go in and dovetail off a Medicare supplement lead where a person has a Medicare supplement and they might be interested in, that's a person that will also have retirement money. That would be a person that owns a house, or most likely. So we're looking at pivoting into other areas, but am I comfortable with what I do? Absolutely. I'm very comfortable with what I do. And it's been a proven success. Yeah.
Yeah, no, just to jump in on that, we've had agents from all walks of really lead systems, final expense. That's what Jeremy was doing, Facebook leads at the time, mostly. We've had agents who are working Medicare supplement leads. We've had agents working direct mail final expense leads. And we've had agents using our telemarketing system. And the point is that I believe is that really the beauty of what we do is that it doesn't matter. What matters most is having presentations and knowing, using Stephen's knowledge, how to dovetail or transition from an initial presentation to a conversation about retirement strategies, or how, their concerns about their retirement, better put. And because so many people, 90 to 95% of our prospects, they weren't sitting around worrying about their stock portfolio before we showed up. Much of the sales we make, the vast majority, are basically through education and fact finding and showing the client what they have and then educating them in order to show them what they could get. Just like Stephen said, here's what's happened. Here's what could have happened. Can't help you with what's happened in the past, but I can help you what could happen in the future. And being able to explain that, because many of our prospects, they're not $500,000 plus under assets under management with a financial advisor with a close relationship. These are usually clients that are closer to the 100,000 give or take range. So we do sell policies for more than that. But these people aren't getting service from their financial advisor. If anything, they're ignored. And our service, and that's our opportunity, we come in and help out in a way that they haven't been able to see because they've been pushed a product that they just say yes to because they really don't know of any other options. And so it leads to me saying the point that in many circumstances, it just doesn't matter. As long as you're targeting, generally speaking, seniors, final expense leads, Medicare leads, or our system, and you set enough appointments and you go through a fact finder, you'll be blown away what you find. And many times there are deals there that, again, are way simpler to get if you only ask and know where to go to. So this is a question from the chat.
On that.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
Can I dovetail onto that and then we'll go to the question? While it's fresh in my head, because I'm 62 years old and sometimes these great ideas flee. So one of the things that I realize with this population is they're pretty happy with very poor growth, if no growth, or even losing money. It's not an issue with them. It sounds weird. You would think that because they really don't know it's a problem. So I have certain phrases that I do off the top of my head, very casually. One of the things I like to say is do you have a 401k someplace? And they say, yeah. And then the next thing I say in response to that is, well, and how long's that money been sitting where it's at? Well, it's been there for 15 years. And I said, well, a well-structured retirement plan should double every 8 to 10 years. I'm assuming that's what yours is doing. Do the assumptive close. And do most retirement plans double every 8 to 10 years? No. Now you've created a problem. And I said, then the next thing I say, and I said, well, just so we're clear here, your money did double. I mean, it's been a very strong market. If it's been in any kind of managed money, it has doubled. The question is, who's getting it?
Right.
So now I've created a problem, and then I've created a villain. I've created a problem. I've created a villain. Where's the money going? Problem is, it's not doubling every 8 to 10 years to stabilize your retirement till death do you part. Why is that? Because there's a villain involved. Somebody somebody is stripping the growth potential, because if your money's growing at 3%, it's never going to do much. If it's growing at 8%, it's going to double every 7 years. Just simple math.
Right.
You can run a prospectus, you can figure this stuff out. It's the art of compounding. And then once that compounds, I'm writing this afternoon a nice lady that I wrote business before, and she had this annuity that she didn't tell me about. This is a lady that likes me. I've taken her to the airport. She's a nice person. Didn't tell me about this money. I could have fixed this 2 years ago when I was working on that one, but not everybody's completely open with their money. So it's $93,000. And I said, well, how long has it been sitting there? Because I did exactly what I said to you. And it has not been doubling at that rate. And then I did the math on, well, if it was at that rate, this is where you'd be today, which is about 1.5 fold what she has. And then as a result of that process, we learn I'm able to go in and write the business, and I'll move it. I'll get a nice piece of commission off of that. And she's got another $900,000 to deal with, and she's 70. And at this point, her needs are going to change. And now we're going to deal with legacy and how do we transfer that wealth over to where she wants it? But I'm in the long game. I'm not in the quick game. I get what's on the table, and then I move forward. But you got to create the problem. These folks do not think they have a problem. We're not on a subject. We're not there on a subject that we're addressing. We're there for fundamental education. So first you create a problem, and then I can fix that. Can't do it today. I can fix that, but I can't do it today. I have a solution for that. I have some options available to you that would be very competitive, that would look attractive, but I can't do it today. I got to go. I'm a busy guy.
Yeah, I think.
Can we reschedule? Let me. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Just to jump in, I think that is the crux of what we teach. Is it's not the perception from the outside looking in, for many people who have never wrote an annuity but would like to. They're going to think that it's the annuity side that's really difficult. That's the big thing to be sensitive about. But it's really mastering this craft of fact-finding and uncovering the underlying problem, to ask those disturbing questions so that you can realize and help these people see there is a problem. And you just didn't know it was there, but it manifested itself and was continuing to manifest itself. And learning how to do that is a multiple more important than annuities. Learning the annuity product's important, but that's easier than it is learning, or that's simpler, I should say, than it is learning the salesmanship. Because if you can get good at that, you'll find all sorts of opportunity.
Yeah, there are two players in this field, and one is managed money. They heavily advertise. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money being expensed to acquire clients. The cost of acquisition for a client. You've got office overhead. You've got the companies that advertise. You've got Wall Street aggressively advertising constantly on television. Annuity business is a quiet business. We lay low, but we offer a better deal. And I'm glad it's that way,
right? Because
it requires a skill set of the person that's presenting that product. It requires a skill set that brings the client in to being in a better position, because we wouldn't be able to out of it. Because where's that going to come from? It's going to come out of the commissions. It's going to come out of the overhead. They're not going to be able to offer us. So the good news is that insurance companies don't advertise heavily into the annuity business. That's good news, because if they did, it would come out of your pocket. Financial services guys advertise heavily. Bad news is that it doesn't come out of their pockets. And this is what the client needs to understand. It doesn't come out of their pockets. It comes out of their clients' pockets. They're still going to have the office and the big desk and the secretary and the cappuccino machine and everything else to bring you in, but you're paying for the guy's BMW. And when they understand how that works and how that opportunity for growth can go into their cash value account based on some conditions of the contract, then That's those are the two players, and you got to understand the fellow that you're going up against, a Series 7 guy. You got to understand that fella, and if you understand him well, he's not too impressive. Don't be too afraid of him. Would I want a Series 7 license? No, I could spend a weekend to get one, but I do not need to tap into my client's money in order to pay myself. That's what fundamentally that's all about. A lot of it is. I don't mean to poo-poo the whole industry, but I don't see folks that earn my respect. There's a couple of guys out there that hang up a shingle that do a good job, but they're dealing with multi-million-dollar clients.
Right.
The guy that's just a ham and egger, the banks, the financial groups that they have, if they go into their local bank, I remember educating a fella. We were right on the edge of moving $100,000 on this fella, and I showed him. And I said, great, ask these 3 questions. And I wrote them down. What's the cap? What's the spread? What's the participation rate? These are the only 3 things you need to know. Cap, spread, participation rate. This is my product. There's no cap, there's no spread. This is the participation rate. You go down to the bank. He lasted about 3 minutes in the guy's office. Presented a product that's offered at the bank. What's the cap? 3.5%. See ya. Out the door. As soon as they're talking 3.5%, 4.5%, 5% caps, walk out. As soon as they're offering, generally spreads are not as bad as a cap, but most products are capped. And if you can offer a client an uncapped, good participation rate, no spread, that's where the deal is. And then put it to an index that's competitive, and they'll be safe, and they'll be in a much better position than when you found them.
So, Stephen, let me jump in here and kind of wrap up with one last question, then I'm going to wrap it up. So, Jesse in DC, this is a question in the chat. Thanks, Jesse, for the question. What does your team say to set up the appointment? If you could just very briefly in 2 minutes explain how you set your appointments up over the phone, or in this case, how Ricardo does it.
Well, I haven't talked to Ricardo in a while. I'll tell you how I did it. I did it kind of as a very matter-of-fact type of situation. I booked my own appointments for years. The greatest thing that I've gotten from my relationship with David is he finally convinced me to fire myself and not set my own appointments, which was good advice. So you're going to get my phone pitch. Hi, ma'am. My name is, and I introduced myself. My name's Stephen Burgess. I'm with the Senior Benefits Program here in the county. The purpose of my call is I work closely with folks over the age of 65. It's my job to explain the state, federal, and private programs that are available to you that are not income related. The way I do that is I put together a catalog of all the contact information in our county, along with the state, federal, and private programs that you need to be educated on, so that you're fully aware of everything that we have. I'm going to be in your area on Tuesday and Wednesday. I always do a 2-position close. I have a 9:15 available, or would 12:45 work better for you? That's how I do it. And if they agree to the appointment, I do some things that I call salting the deal. Once I get the appointment, I verify the address. I tell them that I drive a 2-door silver Solara, that I look kind of like Henry Winkler. I'm a teacher by profession, and give me about 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after, but I'm locked in. Do you have a calendar? Could you write it down? Yada, yada, yada. I salt it a little bit, and I run 3 or 4 of those when I'm out in the field. I work tight. I'm not driving all over the place. In case you noticed, I'm kind of selling against final expense work, which is I'm not driving all over the place. I go into an area, I stay in that area, and I work a particular area for usually about a week or 2, and then I go to a different area. So if I write any business, I don't have to go very far. But that's how I get the appointment. And then in the appointment, my whole purpose is to do a fabulous presentation. I'm going to have to really, because the presentation I did on the original videos that we have online, it's gotten better. And you'll find that the more you do the presentation, you just get better with information.
Right.
And my catalog's better. My presentation of the catalog's better. The way I psychologically stop and then start, that I literally do that, and fundamentally I finish, and then I restart again if there's interest. And that I find that pause, because they expect you to keep going. When you do things that they go, this guy's selling me something. I don't know what it is, but he's selling me something the whole time. Yeah. After you do the presentation and you go, you have any questions? Because I got somebody to go see. Well, that the thing you were talking about. Oh, really? Let's go to the page. Oh, well, if it's okay with you, do you mind if I find out if you're compliant with the spend down laws? Would that be all right? Now, spend down laws are the same all over the country. There's Medicaid spend down laws. How do you spend down your assets? They're the same all over the country. That's fundamentally the topic I have. You know, how to, in the event of long-term care, it's going to wipe out all your assets. You know, you got to present a problem, and then you have to present a solution to that problem. And so that's how that works.
Well, Stephen, I appreciate your time today, and everybody who's joining me. Thank you for attending. Last thing I want to leave you guys with, and this is really important. This is a simpler product than you think to sell. There are all sorts of opportunities to sell annuities, whether you're already selling something on your own, maybe that's Medicare or final expense. Just by asking a few extra questions and having somebody in your corner to help you basically piece the deal together, it can make a night and day difference from going from zero to hero when it comes to selling annuities. And that's why we developed this annuity sales program, because first of all, there's such an incredible opportunity that myself for years, as well as many of you guys out there, are walking past, that these people need your help. And there is a way to learn this quickly and understand how to sell it effectively, because what Stephen and I have combined our forces together to do is to help the new agents to this annuity sale so that we can help you close deals and be competent so that you can begin to sell annuities, whether as a cross-sell or to even transition entirely into a sales and marketing system where all you do is sell annuities, specifically to the most extent to people 65 and older. If this is something you're interested in, you don't have to sell final expense or Medicare with us. It's great if you did. If you just wanted to look into cross-selling annuities with us, we can help you with that exclusively. You can keep your business elsewhere. We're quite happy with that. All you have to do is just reach out to me, and we'll have a talk, and I'll tell you more about it, how it works, what the details are. You can ask me questions, and then we can detail the next steps. The way to do that is very simple. If you go to davidduford.com/contact, just send me a message over there, and then I will reply back within 24 to 48 hours, and we'll give you some information review and allow you to set a time with me, and we can talk more about how this opportunity works and to hopefully help you, because I think, my opinion, is that this market will be even bigger and even more opportunity will be in it over the next 5, 10, 15 years as more people age into retirement, and with the vast majority not being in annuities and not having protection from market loss, there's going to be a bigger and more profound interest. And I think now is the time for those who have a proclivity towards this to learn the craft of selling this and become competent and confident. I think it will make your career in this business wonderful. So again, Stephen, thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
And everybody else, same to you. We will see you next time, and reach out to me if I can help. Y'all take care. Thank you.